Alrighty, so now we're going to be going over the Carolina Panthers and what they did this offseason with Matt Rhule and the gang. But when doing so, I am joined by a very special guest. I'm throwing it over to him, and he has his own YouTube channel. Does NBA and NFL just like we do, and just another content creator that we brought in. And I'll let him introduce himself if you want to go ahead, I guess. Say hey, Mr. Dustin. How you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Thanks for bringing me on, Aaron.
No problem.
Really appreciate it. Yo, by the way, while you guys are listening to this, I want you guys to go ahead and subscribe to Sports Guy Talking. All right, that channel right now has over 390 subscribers. It is an ever-growing channel. Please subscribe to that. Also, I also host another show with a co-host on that show. That co-host is Sean Davison. Anyways, please subscribe to Combo Sports Talk. So I want you guys to go ahead, subscribe, check out our videos, like the videos, comment on the videos as well for both Sports Guy Talking and Combo Sports Talk. So please subscribe to that. That would greatly be appreciated.
No problem. And I'll make sure to either myself or John make sure the links will be included for this portion of the in the YouTube video as well. But yeah, you said when we were talking in the DMs, just to go peel the curtain a little bit. You mentioned you're probably most knowledgeable about the Panthers. Are you a Panthers fan, or is it just by location? How are you? So, what made this team your quote unquote expertise?
Yeah, I'm a Panthers fan, man.
Okay.
I live in Charlotte.
Oh yeah.
I'm a Panthers fan. So I just grew up watching that team, and that's why I'm a Panthers fan.
Yeah, my earliest memory of the Panthers was that Super Bowl, which I know maybe I'm not sure how old you are, but I'm not sure. I hope it's not a painful memory, but that Jake Delhomme against the Patriots and just fell short. Steve Smith Sr. But I just to once again, I know we'll dive into the offseason in a second, but just because John and I, especially John, he's a huge Matt Rhule fan. Matt Rhule from Baylor. I just want to get your thoughts. Like, what were how do you feel after year one of the Matt Rhule era?
Well, it was certainly interesting to say the least. I thought that the Panthers were going to be one of the league's worst teams in football last year, and the fact that my team, the Panthers, went 5-11 last year with McCaffrey only playing 3 games.
Yeah, that's the big thing.
That was a big testament in itself. I didn't like that. I like Rhule a lot as a team builder, and I like a lot of what he has done. But one thing that I have not liked about Rhule is the quarterbacks that he brought in. I was not a fan when he released Cam Newton in favor of signing Teddy Bridgewater. I thought that was not the right decision for the franchise. I thought that we should have either A, kept Kyle Allen, continued to start him, tank for Trevor, or B, tried to pay Cam Newton in a trade and take on a bad contract at the quarterback position and try to get extra draft capital if you could. And
No, see, personally, it's a tough spot. I think that Rhule only did so because probably just needed to get fresh faces in the building, maybe. That's the only reason I can think of. But like you mentioned, it worked out. And obviously, so I bet you if someone had told you last season, hey, you're going to be missing Christian McCaffrey's only going to play 3 games this year, by the way. Would you have ever believed you would have won 5 games?
No, of course not. I had the Panthers winning like 3 or 4 games last year. But trust me, when I looked at the Panthers last year, we were much closer to a playoff team than a 3 or 4 win team, even though we ended up only finishing with 5 wins. So that was a good testament to our team. And considering the brutal schedule that my team, the Panthers, had to face last year, 5 wins was honestly probably the best that you could have asked realistically.
Well, and in that division, let's not forget, Saints were in that division. That the Super Bowl champions, Tampa Bay Buccaneers were in that division. The Falcons, even they started slow at the beginning of the season, they figured out their way kind of at the end of the season to be a competitive team. So, and I remember there were a lot of games because, John and I picked by spread where it was 1 possession games, and we see that all the time going from year to year where it's like, oh, this team's all of a sudden a 10-win team now that was, a 5-win team. And it's just because those 1 possession games finally, they know how to learn how to win. So we'll see how it goes this year. So let's, just dive right into the offseason acquisitions. So some key departures. I felt were noteworthy, and you can feel free to add on. But obviously Curtis Samuel, left to the Washington football team. You mentioned Teddy Bridgewater. He was traded to Denver. And we'll talk about, why, obviously, because they got Sam Darnold. Quan Short, not re-signed. Same thing with your tackle, Russell Okung. Mike Davis, who, like we mentioned, Christian McCaffrey was out for an extended period of time. He filled in pretty well as anyone probably could. He left and is with Atlanta now. Was there anyone else you maybe felt like was a key departure? Or did I feel kind of hit the nail there on the coffin?
Yeah, you definitely hit the nail on the coffin there. That's for sure.
All right, cool. Sorry, I'm just come over sickness. But all right. So then, like I just mentioned, the additions. A lot of solid additions. Can go over the free agency ones. Brought in edge rusher Hassan Reddick from the Cardinals. One that I didn't even know about until doing this. I'm just looking at their acquisitions, kind of on the radar. Denzel Perryman, who I think's, when healthy, been a solid inside linebacker. So if anything, good depth there. Also AJ Bouye, corner, who may not be what he was in Jacksonville, but still a solid corner. And then, like I kind of prefaced previously, traded for Sam Darnold for the Jets. And then in terms of just re-signing, as recent news, brought back right tackle Taylor Moton, which one of the more underrated right tackles in the game right now, which obviously will help. That's a huge. That was a huge re-sign just in regards to the future in general. And then just draft-wise, cornerback J.C. Horn, who I will admit I wasn't high on. I'll get your opinion in a second, especially at 8. But kind of made up for it in the second round, in my opinion. Got wide receiver Terrace Marshall Jr., who I really liked. I had him at about a first-round grade, but second round was good too. So, yeah, any of those additions that really pop out to you?
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with you about the J.C. Horn pick. I love the J.C. Horn pick. He was my best defensive player in my big board. As far as what I evaluate, J.C. Horn is going to be the next Jalen Ramsey, maybe even better. This guy is so physical, and he is everything that you need in a modern-day corner. When you look at all these big receivers, and then you see all those undersized corners, J.C. Horn is going to be a matchup nightmare. He will get physical. He's tall. He plays with effort every single snap. You just need those kind of corners in today's NFL, especially the cornerback position, which is more important than ever. So I just love the J.C. Horn at pick 8, considering the circumstances that we were at.
Okay, because my only knock on Horn, or one of my knocks on Horn, just was not elite level speed and burst. I felt, But once again, when the more I looked at the roster, the more I thought about it, especially like you mentioned the division too. You get, like you mentioned, you're going up once again. Look at the division, going up against Mike Evans twice a year. You're going to go up against, we'll see for now, Michael Thomas twice a year. And then before it was Julio, now it's just Calvin Ridley's not that big a receiver, but potentially Kyle Pitts now, yeah. So. Yeah, and potentially, yeah. The move makes sense when you look at it now, and yeah, I mean, I think and I still had to think he's a first round corner, personally, and yeah, maybe he can still be an Xavier Rhodes type. Xavier Rhodes, that was a kind of a knock that many had on him coming in. Not a lot of elite speed and agility, but he made up for it with his physicality and size. So if J.C. Horn can be anything like Xavier Rhodes or, like you said, obviously Jalen Ramsey, which is the highest standard, then obviously I was wrong. And Cha-ching, great pick by Matt Rhule and the gang. But I love the Terrace Marshall Jr. pick, just to add on with DJ Moore, especially since, like I mentioned, you lost Curtis Samuel. But now Terrace Marshall has experience on the slot and the outside. That's what I really like. Kind of coming in play right now. Obviously, you still have Robbie Anderson. But just that trio, one of the more, I think, underrated trios going into this season that, not many people are talking about. It's not like, not many headliners, but just a really good top 3 receiving core, especially, like I mentioned, DJ Moore, I think just a rising star in this league. And now that you have Sam Darnold, which next question will come, I think it's kind of obvious. You can give me your thoughts on Darnold, what you think he'll do, but feels like a make or break year for Sam Darnold for his career-wise in general, no?
Oh, yeah, definitely about Sam Darnold. However, I don't share that optimism that a lot of people are feeling about Sam Darnold. And I want to be wrong on this. I'm a Panthers fan.
Yeah.
I want Darnold to succeed, but I'm not sold on this guy. And yes, I know that he had Adam Gase. Yes, I know that he had a terrible O-line. No weapons on the Jets.
Yeah.
Yes, all those reasons are valid. However, when you evaluate Sam Darnold, you look at his time at USC, you look at his time on the Jets. There were many things that were consistent with his flaws. Bad footwork, bad accuracy, not the most mobile guy out there. And yes, while he does have a very good arm, it isn't on the Patrick Mahomes. It's not on the Josh Allen, Justin Herbert kind of level to where he can make up for his gunslinging mistakes. When I look at this guy, man, I'm not really too high about his future. He kind of reminds me of a better version of Blake Bortles. That's not a good thing. It's not a good thing. Because Blake Bortles and Sam Darnold, they're both big body guys. They both have underrated mobility, but not mobile enough to be a consistent threat. They both have accuracy issues. They both have footwork issues. And no matter the kind of team you have, mistakes are just going to be made. It's not like the Carolina offensive line is exactly great out there for Sam Darnold to go ahead and succeed.
Yeah, but I mean, it could be, like I said. But regardless, I think this is the best. Like you alluded, I think everyone's alluded to. Like this is the best situation he has thus far in his career. So yeah, if there is a time to show the world what he has, that he's better than what his resume says in New York, then this would be the time. So yeah, but just overall, anything else offensively? I mean, I know. Because I initially I was kind of hoping for Carolina's sake that maybe Kyle Pitts falls him. It would be a perfect fill-in for the offense. Obviously, it didn't happen. Then you got J.C. Horn. Some might say... Go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to note this about Sam Darnold. I'm not saying Darnold was necessarily terrible because he was terrible on his own.
Yeah.
But I just don't think that he has the qualities to be a great quarterback, which is what you need to be a Super Bowl contending kind of team, or even just a consistent contender. Darnold's going to be a guy that's going to put up like 23 touchdowns, 15 interceptions kind of thing, and that's not going to cut it in today's league. I mean, I know for Sam Darnold, that's great for him. But for NFL standards, in today's NFL, not going to cut it.
Yeah. So, I mean, if maybe he can evolve and maybe working with Matt Rhule, like I said, who knows? Maybe with all these weapons, just the numbers will be a little bit better, and then the team around him will be better too. Because, I'm going to shift over to the defense because, last year, Matt Rhule, like we mentioned, last draft, all defense. And then that's one of the reasons why I didn't think he'd go defense with his first pick, but he still did. And, yeah, like I kind of read off the list wise, I mean, got good players all around. We already mentioned some of the additions, but let's not forget Dante Jackson. I think it's an underrated corner. I know he's not a star, but he's still a very good corner. Shaq Thompson's now he's an underrated linebacker. Brian Burns, and then you still have first round pick Dwayne Brown. Kind of got into his own towards the end of last year, and then obviously Jeremy Chin was a nice surprise too. Late in the draft. So yeah, any defensive guys or any other pieces that we should, maybe the general public should keep an eye on going forward into the season?
Yeah, and remember this. Don't sleep on Shaq Thompson. Shaq Thompson is a guy who can still perform. And I want to note one final thing about the quarterback position.
Yeah, go ahead.
Personally, I would have selected Justin Fields with the 8th pick. That's what I would have done as the GM. I believe that Justin Fields is going to be a future star at the quarterback position. But now, back to our defense. Don't forget about Gross Matos. He's an underrated defensive lineman.
Yep.
People are sleeping on that guy. That guy is a playmaker when you look at him. And Derek Brown, too. I mean, I'm not a Derek Brown kind of guy.
Sorry, I said Dwayne, I think. My apologies.
Yeah, I'm not really a big Derek Brown guy, but, I mean, he has shown that he could produce and, he could be productive. Although I still think that he was a reach at pick 7, but it is what it is.
Yeah, with him, I think his career is going to be more about disruption more than, sack. It's going to be more about eating the double teams, maybe just being disruptive, and then maybe, he breaks through the line, and then he doesn't get the sack, but because he broke through the line, the quarterback ran to, Yetter's side, and he got the sack, or Brian Burns' side. That just may be his kind of career, but we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I think he can still be a great disruptor for the Carolina Panthers. But all right, so I mean, high hopes. I have high expectations for defense. I liked what they did last year. They weren't, I don't know about you. I'm not a big fan of and I'm glad it's phasing out of the league. The Seattle, we're just going to play this style defense every game. I liked what Matt Rhule did the more New England style, where we're going to be game plan specific week to week. Our defense changes, our coverage change, week to week. And that's one of the things I did like about Matt Rhule's defense. So now that we've kind of tied everything there, do you think? And I mean, I'm going to say yes, obviously. But do you think that the Panthers will be eclipsing their win total from last year?
Oh yeah, that's a given.
Okay.
That's a given. Of course, they're going to eclipse the win total. They're a better football team.
Yeah.
This is Matt Rhule's second year, and they play a much easier schedule. When you play against the NFC East, look, you're going to guarantee yourself 2 or 3 wins that you typically would not get in a known division. So I'm already liking that kind of advantage. To me, this Panthers team, I'm going to conservatively say they'll go 7-10. Okay. All right, and I think they can definitely make the playoffs if they even get decent quarterback play. Now, I think that Darnold will be a below-average quarterback, which is why I'm going to say that they're going to only win 7 games. But I think this defense is going to take huge jumps. If this defense is going to be a top 10 defense by the end of next year, I'm not going to be surprised one bit. I like every part about this Panthers team except the quarterback position. That's really the only position I don't like, and even the tight end position. Dan Arnold, good player. We'll see how he does. I kind of like him, but I feel like his production is going to be dependent on Sam Darnold. I'm not really much of a Darnold guy.
Yeah. Do you still have Ian? Wasn't Ian Thomas your tight end last year for the most part? Is he still on the roster? I'm sorry, I should have looked that up.
Yeah,
but he's. I think he. Yeah, I thought he was a solid tight end. Like not great, but he's solid all around. So I mean, I think I don't know who will win the starting job, but I expect him to, just because he's more well-rounded blocking and pass catching. I feel. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
I think he's going to be more likely to be released by the Panthers to win the starting job. Definitely.
Okay.
A lot of people in Carolina are not happy with Ian Thomas's production. 20 catches, 145 yards as the starting tight end. That's not going to cut it. It's really that simple. Or if they're going to keep him, they're going to bury him on the depth chart.
Okay, so you expect Sam Arnold to be the man, to be the starting tight end at least.
Dan Arnold.
Yes. Jeez, yeah, they're so close.
Definitely. Definitely.
All right.
But let me ask you a question, though. Gotta ask you this. Yeah. So let's say Sam Darnold fails. Do you believe in either Will Greer or P.J. Walker as quarterbacks?
No, but I think no, I don't. And I think that's where you have the flexibility. I mean, they only gave up a second-round pick for Sam Darnold, correct? I think the beauty of that deal was that if he doesn't work out, Sam Darnold, I mean, you obviously let him walk. And I think, if they are 7-10, probably be in 10 or 11 range. They're still in position, especially the way the roster is constructed, that they can afford to, push, mortgage more picks in the future and still have a good enough pick to offer at next year's draft to move up and get a quarterback. Because as we're seeing, there's a lot more good quarterbacks coming out out of college now. Now that 7-on-7s, all these camps are becoming more prevalent. So to answer your question, no, I don't think either of them could be any sort of upgrade.
I think that maybe they could be, but I think that's a reach. But I like both of those backups, actually, just as guys to root for, just because I found both of them rootable. But I just don't think that they're going to be long-time NFL starting quarterbacks, particularly in this kind of climate that they are in. And yes, you are right about the quarterbacks. A lot of quarterbacks coming out and doing good right away. I like that because that's why you got to do them 7-on-7 drills and stuff like that. I can tell you that as experience playing the game of football, the quarterback position has never been trained better as far as I'm concerned, because they teach you all about the throwing arcs. To me, when I evaluate a quarterback, I always look at arm strength, I look at mobility, I look at intangibles, and I look at his throwing arc. I don't care if you're tall or short, okay? Because if you're 6'7", but you are a flatline thrower, not going to work. But if you're let's say 5'10" or something like that, but you can throw a high arcing kind of throw, it's going to be very successful in the NFL because defenses are not going to be able to know how to guard that kind of line. That's why you see a Russell Wilson succeed and stuff like that.
Yeah, and Kyler Murray's thus far doing pretty well too, because I think he's pretty short too. So
he's all right.
Yeah, we'll still see. That's one of those things where John and I feel that Cliff Kingsbury is really holding him back, but more to be told on that. But I think
maybe we can debate about that in the future.
Yeah, we can. I mean, we'll give them this year. We'll give them this year. But yeah, we'll see. But anything else you wanted to mention Panther wise, or just at all before we end this in this segment here?
Yeah, I want to mention one more thing,
Go ahead.
actually. How do you think the kicking game is going to impact the Panthers? Because I remember last year, Joey Sly, and I like his
Yeah.
potential. He missed a lot of kicks last year, particularly in clutch situations. And how's our two-man offense going to be looking like with Darnold? You think it's going to improve, or you think it's going to stay the same?
I think it will improve, and just because, well, I'm with you. Darnold has a lot of flaws, inconsistent accuracy, arm strength. He does kind of live. He is best when it's kind of backyard football-ish, when he gets out of the pocket. So I think it'll improve. I'm not going to say it's going to be amazing, and then also with the targets he has, another year with DJ Moore. Obviously, he's reunited with Robbie Anderson, who had a really good year last year for y'all. And then, Christian McCaffrey's back too. Just, another option. I think just by default, the 2-minute offense will improve. But I'm not going to say it's a drastic step forward.
Well, I mean, when you don't practice two-minute offense, look, I like Rhule for a lot of things, but when you don't practice 2-minute, I mean, what can you expect? Like,
Yeah.
if you don't practice something, you're not going to be good at it. It's really that simple. So I just want. So yes, I think it's going to get better by default because one time you succeed, it's got to be more than zero, which was what the Panthers
Oh, man.
fortunately did last year.
I did not know that. That's a sad stat, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that was rough.
But hey, I mean, hopefully that turns around this year. I mean, like I said, there were a few times last year. I think y'all hung with the Bucks. I think at least one of the times you're hanging tough with them. I think especially in the first half. I think, and then the second half, the doors blew open. But for the most part, I think most of the games there, I never said, man, like the Panthers didn't bring it today, or they weren't. They just were absent. I could just tell that they weren't the better team today. For the most part, the Panthers were a competing team. It's just, I think, like we kind of mentioned, experience kind of just, they didn't have that to close out some of these games that they maybe could have won or, kept closer.
Yeah, and I think it just depends on what were your expectations for the Panthers in 2020. I think that's just what it depends on.
Yeah. So, all right, man. Anything else you want to mention or just throw at us or me? So once again, sorry John couldn't make it. It's a busy day.
Yeah, man, I feel you, man. And, busyness happens a lot. But, yeah, it was great being on the show, man.
Yeah, I
Really appreciate it.
Yeah, hey, we appreciate having you on once again. I'll link part of your links in the description if you want to promote your stuff one more time. But I'll put all the links that Dustin is mentioning are going to be in the description of the YouTube video. And yeah, so go ahead.
Yeah, like I said, guys, if you haven't yet, please subscribe to Sports Guy Talking. Also, subscribe to Combo Sports Talk. Those are two channels that you guys definitely do not want to miss out on.
Yep, and you do NBA and NFL, correct?
Definitely.
Yep. So, alrighty. Well, thank you very much for joining me today, Dustin. Once again, John sends his regards. But hopefully, look forward to having you on in the future. And thanks for your expertise. Once again, I honestly didn't know about the Matt Rhule thing, about the 2-minute drill. And I also did not know that's that either. So, you brought a lot of eye-opening stats, and obviously you brought the juice. So, much appreciated, man. And hopefully, I hope you enjoy your night and have a nice one, man.
Yep, you too. See ya.
See ya. It'll be tough for Saints fans, but I'm switched. So now I'm going to be talking Panthers. By the way, shout out Mike, who is in the chat. Yeah, he said, what's up? So yeah, I talked with Dustin from Sports Talks, and we'll put that episode up with this bit afterwards. And yeah, so as John, as you mentioned, heard, real critical. He was real critical of at least Sam Darnold, but really liked the other picks. He's really high on J.C. Horn as well. He felt he can be Jalen Ramsey-ish. I'm still on the fence. I liked now that, and I didn't tell you this, but yeah, now that I think about the pick more, I'm not as down on the pick because you have to have different types of corners, and they need a more physical corner. They have Dante Jackson, who's a speedster. And then they also brought in an AJ Bouye, who's more of a veteran. So yeah, maybe he can learn from AJ Bouye. And regardless, facing Mike Evans twice a year. I know no Michael Thomas at the beginning of the season, but in theory, you're gonna be facing Michael Thomas twice a year. And then I know there's no more Julio, but Calvin Ridley, so slash Kyle Pitts. So the pick makes sense because sometimes you have to draft to your division, especially. So, but regardless, you know Matt Rhule, I really liked his second round pick, Terrace Marshall Jr. And like I mentioned with Dustin's real put up or shut up year for Sam Darnold. But yeah, what are your thoughts on your boy Matt Rhule and his Panthers and how he did this offseason?
I liked their offseason. Honestly, I mean, they lost some key guys, right? Curtis Samuel, I think, is the biggest one that hurt. Obviously, Kwan Short, a guy who's been there for a really long time. That was a big change. But I mean, and this is going to sound like a broken record from last offseason, but this is what Matt Rhule does. He slowly brings in his guys. He tends to basically complete overhaul of the team about 3 or 4 years. And then when his team and his guys who fit his team are fully there, then that's when you see the Matt Rhule, success. And I think the Panthers are still on track for that. Obviously, I think both of us weren't as high on J.C. Horn as the Panthers clearly were, taking him as the first corner off the board
At 8.
Yeah. But I mean, I still like the pick overall just because I trust Matt Rhule. It's one of those things like if you see Kyle Shanahan take a wide receiver or a quarterback, you tend to trust that he knows what he's doing, right? And same with like Andy Reid or just there's certain guys that have earned your respect. I know that probably Matt Rhule hasn't necessarily earned that in like most NFL circles, but seeing what he was able to do with Baylor, with Temple, I just and witnessing it firsthand as a Baylor student, like I believe in the guy, and so I honestly even talking about their schedule, the Saints had a kind of tough one. Here's what the Panthers start off with. All right, week 1, they have the Jets. Okay, it's a young team, but that's a winnable game right there. That's anybody's game. Week 2, at the Saints. You never, like I said, you never know what you're going to get in that game. Then you go play to Houston. That should be a win. Houston, I think, is probably going to be the worst team in the league this year. At the Cowboys, you never know what you're going to get with the Cowboys. Then you got the Eagles, the Vikings. I mean, like it's compared to the Saints schedule, it is so much easier. So I wouldn't be surprised if they started off hot. Obviously, like I said, they didn't have an amazing year last year, but I think they're going to improve. I think that Sam Darnold, I know some people maybe not be high on him, but I think after coming out of a system with Adam Gase, we saw the difference in Ryan Tannehill's production with Adam Gase and without. I don't think it's going to be as stark because he doesn't necessarily have a workhorse like Derrick Henry, but he's got Christian McCaffrey who can do literally everything, and he might be the better overall running back. And so, as you can't necessarily just give him the ball and let him carry you to a championship or a conference championship like Derrick Henry has done. But he can absolutely just get involved in every aspect of the game and make life so easy on Sam Darnold. So I expect him to do well there. I love the Terrace Marshall pick. I think he just adds some size, some speed that they needed. And so, yeah, I liked what the Panthers overall did. Like I said, they did lose some key pieces, but overall, I think those are guys who are veterans from the old regime. And I think this is just Matt Rhule bringing in his guys.
Yeah, so we'll see how they go. And the biggest thing will be, and like I mentioned with Dustin, was that didn't give up much for Sam Darnold. So if it doesn't work out, you still have first round picks and other picks too in the future. So if you're still middle of the pack, 12, 13, that's not a bad spot to maneuver up. Like I said, we just saw San Francisco move from that kind of range. It was like 10, right? 10 to 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
12.
12. Sorry. Even so.
I don't know how many anyway.
But in that range, you can move within that range. This was considered a very good draft too.
Right.
And next year, at least from what I've seen or I've heard and read, not as deep of a quarterback class. So maybe you might not have to give up more to move up. So we'll see with them. But I like some of the 1 year kind of gambles they took with Hassan Reddick and Denzel Perryman. Two guys, Perryman's had injury issues, and Reddick's just wasn't consistent the first few years and finally popped last year. So, like you mentioned, I do like the few, I guess, risks you could say, but not really risks that Matt Rhule has taken for his team. So that is the Panthers. So we'll see what is in store for them in year 2. Hopefully McCaffrey stays healthy because only played 3 games last year was a big reason. But the fact that they, like I mentioned, had success with only 3 games with McCaffrey